The galaxy had not known peace for almost 100 years. Humans and the Valari had shared the same star systems, but they had never truly shared trust. The Valari were a telepathic species, graceful and intelligent, but proud. They considered emotions dangerous, unpredictable, and messy. Humans, in their eyes, were impulsive and wild, always guided by feelings rather than reason. But now, after many wars and losses, both sides wanted peace. The only way to build it was through something more than signatures and promises. It needed a bond. And so the leaders of both species decided on something unthinkable, a marriage between one of their own and a human. Princess Elira of Valari Prime was chosen. She was known for her discipline and clarity of mind. Her silvery blue skin and luminous eyes reflected the calm of her people. She had been trained since childhood to hide every emotion, to never let fear or joy disturb her mind. To her, logic was purity. When the council told her she would marry a human, Captain Jonathan Hale, she froze. Elira had seen recordings of humans. Loud, unpredictable, emotional. Their voices were full of laughter and anger, their hearts open to chaos. To marry one felt like being exiled from her own kind. She bowed her head, hiding the flicker of fear in her mind. "If it is for peace," she said quietly, "then I will obey." But inside, she felt the weight of 1,000 doubts. Days later, she stood in the docking bay of the UHS Unity, the first ship built by both humans and Valari. It was to be their home, and the symbol of their alliance. Elira's attendants adjusted her formal robes, their silver fabric flowing like light. Around her, human officers moved with cheerful energy. They saluted each other, smiled, and spoke too loudly for her comfort. Their laughter echoed off the metal walls like music she couldn't understand. Then she saw him, Captain Jonathan Hale. He was taller than most Valari, his posture strong but calm. His eyes were deep brown, warm, not fierce. He wore a simple navy blue uniform, the mark of his rank shining on his shoulder. When he approached, Elira prepared herself for arrogance or dominance, what she expected from a human soldier. But instead, he bowed his head respectfully and spoke softly. "Princess Elira, it's an honor to meet you." His voice was steady and kind. He did not reach to touch her hand as many humans might. Instead, he waited. She noticed that he kept a careful distance, as if he understood her discomfort without being told. "Captain Hale," she said, her tone calm but distant. "This union is unexpected." He smiled faintly. "It is for both of us, but I believe peace deserves a chance." His honesty surprised her. She had expected rehearsed words or forced charm. Instead, there was quiet sincerity. That evening, the ceremony was held in the observation hall. Stars glittered through the glass dome above them. Delegates from both species watched in silence as the human commander and Valari counselor spoke about unity and trust. Elira stood beside Jonathan, her heart pounding quietly. Though Valari did not show emotion, she could not stop the small tremor in her hands. Jonathan noticed. Without saying a word, he adjusted his stance slightly, shielding her from the gaze of the cameras, a simple act of protection. When the vows were read, she repeated the words with calm precision. He repeated his with warmth, and when it ended, he gave her a respectful nod instead of the human tradition of touch. He seemed to know she would not like it. The crowd applauded. The treaty was official. Peace at last had a face, theirs. That night, Elira sat in her new quarters aboard the Unity. The room was designed for both species. Part sleek Valari metal, part warm human design. Soft lights glowed from the walls, and a view of the nearby nebula filled the window. She tried to meditate, but her thoughts kept returning to Jonathan. He had not forced conversation. He had not tried to impress her. He had simply treated her with gentle respect. That confused her more than anything else. In her mind, humans were reckless and loud, yet he had been patient and quiet. Her communicator buzzed. It was him, Princess Elira. His voice came softly through the device. "I just wanted to make sure your quarters are comfortable. If you need anything, please tell me. I'll keep communication brief. I know Valari prefer silence." Elira hesitated before replying. "Yes, it is suitable." "Thank you, Captain." He chuckled faintly. "You can call me Jonathan if you wish." Her instinctive answer was sharp. "I prefer to keep formality." Understood, he said without offense. Good night, Princess. When the line closed, Elira sat for a long time thinking. He had not pressed her for more words. He had not reacted with irritation. That small courtesy, so natural to him, felt strange to her. The following days were full of observation and confusion. Elira attended meetings with both species officers. She watched humans argue, laugh, and compromise all in the same breath. They were chaotic, but their chaos had purpose. It built bridges where logic alone might fail. Jonathan often translated the cultural meanings for her. When a human laughed too loudly, he would whisper, "They mean no harm, it's just excitement." When someone accidentally stepped too close, he would apologize on their behalf before she even had to react. He never mocked her quietness. He never forced her to join their conversations. He simply made space for her. At first, she thought he was merely following diplomatic rules. But soon she realized it wasn't duty. It was kindness. One morning, during a joint crew meeting, a young Valari officer accidentally misinterpreted a human joke and took offense. Tension filled the room immediately. Before anyone could react, Jonathan stood and spoke in a calm, firm tone. "Let's remember we're here to learn from each other, not to judge. Misunderstandings happen when worlds meet. Patience is how we build peace." The words, spoken gently, dissolved the unease in the room. Even the Valari officer relaxed. Elira found herself watching Jonathan closely, her heart unexpectedly steady. That night she recorded her personal log. "Captain Hale, Jonathan," she whispered softly, "he leads not with force but with understanding. Perhaps that is humanity's true strength." She did not know yet that these quiet thoughts would one day change her heart. Later that week, the ship entered orbit around the first joint colony, a station built by both humans and Valari engineers. As the Unity approached, the sight of it filled the view screen. Half-shining metal, half-crystal structures, merging like two hearts learning to beat together. Jonathan stood beside her on the bridge. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. Elira nodded slowly. "It is unexpected," he smiled. "So is peace sometimes." For the first time, she allowed herself a small smile in return. Faint, uncertain, but real. In that moment, Elira realized something quietly frightening. She no longer dreaded this human. She was beginning to understand him and perhaps to trust him. The UHS Unity glided silently through the stars, its hull shining like silver against the deep black of space. Inside, life was beginning to settle into rhythm, a rhythm that joined two very different species. Humans laughed, argued, and worked together, while the Valari moved gracefully, their minds always calm and measured. For Princess Elira, each day felt like walking through two worlds at once. The human side of the ship was full of sound, footsteps, music, and conversation. The Valari sections, by contrast, were quiet and filled with soft light. To her, the noise of the human decks felt chaotic, yet also strangely alive. Every morning she saw Captain Jonathan Hale leading his crew. He moved among them with simple confidence, greeting each person by name. He listened to their worries, shared their hopes, and even joined them for meals. He treated everyone, human or Valari, with the same steady kindness. Elira did not understand him. He was a captain, yet he acted like a friend. He gave orders gently, not with authority but with respect. It confused her, but it also fascinated her. One afternoon, Jonathan invited her to tour the ship's observation deck, the place where both species gathered for rest. She almost refused, but duty required her to appear among the crew. When she arrived, humans and Valari sat together at round tables, sharing food and quiet talks. A group of humans played soft music, a melody made of strings and light percussion. It was unlike anything Elira had heard before. The notes rose and fell like emotion itself. Jonathan noticed her quiet wonder. "Do you like it?" he asked softly. "It is unusual," she replied. "The sounds carry emotion. It feels uncontrolled," he smiled. "That's what makes it beautiful." She turned to look at him, puzzled. "Beauty through lack of control?" "Sometimes," he said, "beauty isn't in perfection. It's in what makes us feel alive." Elira didn't know how to answer. In her world, emotions were considered distractions. But as she stood there, the music seemed to stir something gentle inside her, something she had buried long ago. Later that evening, During a dinner with the ship's officers, a small misunderstanding happened. A young human cadet named Liam made a light joke about Valari meditation habits, not realizing it might be offensive. The Valari officers went silent instantly, and Elira's eyes grew cold. Jonathan raised a hand before anyone could speak. "Cadet," he said calmly, "you meant no harm, but words can carry weight. Remember that respect builds peace faster than laughter." The cadet quickly stood. "My apologies, Princess Elira. I didn't mean to offend." Elira looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she nodded. "Your apology is accepted." As the room relaxed, Jonathan looked at her with quiet gratitude. He didn't need to speak. His eyes said enough. After the dinner, Elira walked beside him through the corridor. The sound of engines hummed around them. "You handled that situation well," she said quietly. Jonathan shook his head. "It's not about handling. It's about understanding. We all make mistakes, even me. But what matters is learning from them." "Your kind forgives easily," she murmured. He smiled slightly. "Forgiveness is cheaper than war." Her mind lingered on those words long after he left. Days passed. The Unity traveled through peaceful sectors, visiting human colonies and Valari outposts. At each stop, people cheered for them, the symbol of peace between two worlds. But Elira still felt distant. She was part of this mission, yet she still couldn't understand the humans fully. One morning, Jonathan invited her to see the sunrise from the ship's forward viewport. The simulated light of a nearby star filled the glass with gold and red. The reflection touched Elira's pale face like gentle warmth. "Why do humans love this light so much?" she asked softly. He looked at the glowing horizon. "Because it means hope. No matter how dark the night gets, there's always a new day waiting. We hold on to that." "Valari do not believe in hope," she replied. "We believe in reason." He turned to her, his voice gentle. "Maybe both are needed. Hope gives reason a reason to exist." Elira looked at him, surprised by his words. No human had ever spoken to her with such calm wisdom. He wasn't trying to change her, he was trying to understand her. That made all the difference. Later that week, she was invited to observe a human training drill. The crew practiced emergency repairs and rescue operations. It was noisy, intense, and full of shouting commands. Elira watched from the side, her hands clasped neatly, trying not to show her discomfort. When the drill ended, Jonathan approached her, sweat glistening on his forehead. "What do you think?" "It was loud," she said carefully. He laughed softly. "That's one way to describe it. You gave many orders," she added. "But your crew did not question you. They obeyed with trust. Why?" Jonathan paused for a moment, wiping his hands. "Because they know I'd never ask them to do something I wouldn't do myself. Leadership isn't control, it's responsibility." His words struck her deeply. Among the Valari, leaders commanded through intellect and distance. But here was a man who led through heart and example. She wondered which way was stronger. That night, unable to sleep, Elira walked through the ship's quiet corridors. She found herself near the human recreation room. Inside, a few crew members were laughing over a small device showing moving images. A film, they called it. She stood at the doorway, curious. On the screen, two humans were helping each other through a storm. The music swelled as they survived together. When the film ended, the humans cheered softly, their eyes full of emotion. One of them noticed her. "Princess, would you like to join next time?" Elira hesitated, unsure how to respond. But then she saw Jonathan watching from the corner, his eyes warm and encouraging. "Perhaps," she said finally. That simple word made the crew smile. As she left, she realized something strange. She no longer felt completely alien among them. The next day, the Unity passed through an asteroid field. A navigation error caused mild turbulence, throwing some crew members off balance. One of the young Valari officers panicked slightly, unused to sudden motion. Before Elira could react, Jonathan moved quickly, steadying the officer with a calm hand. "It's all right. Just a few rocks. Nothing to fear." His tone was firm but gentle, full of reassurance. Even the nervous officer smiled in relief. Elira watched closely. His calm under pressure was unlike anything she had seen. He didn't use power or telepathy to control emotions. He used something simpler: presence. She felt a quiet respect bloom in her heart. That evening, Elira stood alone in her quarters, staring out at the endless stars. Her reflection shimmered in the glass. She touched it lightly, whispering to herself, "Humans are strange. They feel so much, yet they do not fall apart. Perhaps emotion is not weakness after all." A gentle knock came on the door. It was Jonathan. "Princess, sorry to disturb you. We're approaching the border colonies. There will be a welcoming ceremony tomorrow. I wanted to check if you'd like to review your speech together." Elira nodded slowly. Yes, that would be acceptable. They sat together at the small table. Jonathan helped her adjust some human phrases to sound warmer. He spoke softly, explaining every cultural nuance. When they finished, he smiled. "You're a natural diplomat." She looked at him quietly. "I was trained for duty, but I think I'm learning more from you than from any instructor." Jonathan's expression softened. "And I'm learning from you too, Elira. You remind me that calm doesn't mean cold. It can mean strength." For a moment, silence filled the room, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt peaceful. Two hearts from two worlds sitting in understanding. When he left, Elira felt something unfamiliar in her chest. Warmth. Not fear, not duty. Something gentle, like the human word she had heard so often lately. Hope. The UHS Unity sailed through the black sea of stars, carrying peace on its silver wings. For weeks everything had been calm. Humans and Valari had learned to work together. Laughter filled the ship, mixed with the soft hum of engines. Princess Elira had begun to change. Her steps were lighter, her voice warmer. She had even learned to smile, though only when she was sure no one was watching. Jonathan's kindness had melted the walls she had built around her heart. She found herself looking for him, at meetings, in corridors, even during meals. His presence was steady like gravity. He never tried to impress her. He simply was, calm, understanding, human. But peace in the galaxy was a fragile thing. One morning, the ship's alarm lights flashed red. The calm music of the ship turned into a warning tone. Elira rushed to the bridge, her heart racing. Jonathan stood near the command console, his face serious but composed. "We've received a distress signal," he said. "It's from a Valari transport vessel, unarmed. They're under attack." Elira's eyes widened. "Who would dare attack a Valari ship during peacetime?" Jonathan looked at her carefully. "We don't know yet, but the attackers used old Valari codes." Her blood ran cold. "Old codes. That means they are Valari themselves," he nodded slowly. "We think it's a group called the Pure Mind Council." Elira froze. The Pure Mind Council was a secret faction that opposed peace with humans. They believed Valari minds should remain pure, untouched by emotion or foreign influence. She had heard whispers of them, but she never believed they would go this far. Jonathan noticed the worry in her eyes. "We'll handle it," he said gently. "No harm will come to your people or my crew." She nodded, but her heart felt heavy. The shadows of war were returning. The Unity changed course and approached the damaged Valari vessel. Its silver hull floated among debris and smoke. When Jonathan ordered the scanners to check for life, only silence answered. Elira stood beside him, her hands clasped. "They were my people," she whispered. Jonathan lowered his head in respect. "We'll find who did this, Elira. I promise." Just as they prepared to leave the wreck, a new message appeared on the main screen, a distorted voice speaking in the Valari tongue. "Peace is corruption. The princess has betrayed her kind. The council will cleanse her mistake." The bridge went silent. Every officer turned toward Elira. Her face remained calm, but inside fear gripped her heart. Jonathan's voice was firm. "They won't touch you. Not while I live." His words were simple, but the conviction behind them made her chest tighten. For the first time, she truly felt what humans called safety. That night, she could not sleep. The words of the Pure Mind Council echoed in her thoughts. They were coming for her, and perhaps for him too. She walked quietly to the observation deck. The stars glowed softly outside like candles in endless darkness. She stood there, her mind full of worry, until she heard footsteps behind her. "Jonathan, you couldn't sleep either?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "They hate me. They think I betrayed my people." "You didn't betray anyone," he said. "You gave them a chance at peace." She looked up at him, her silver eyes uncertain. But what if they're right? What if peace with humans destroys what it means to be Valari? Jonathan took a deep breath. Then maybe what it means to be Valari can grow, just like what it means to be human. Change doesn't destroy identity. It reveals its strength. She studied his face, his calm eyes and steady voice. You speak as if you've known war before. I have, he said quietly. I've seen people lose everything. I swore I'd never let fear rule me again. Fear only builds walls. Kindness breaks them. The silence between them grew soft, not cold. For a moment, Elira wished she could reach into his thoughts and see the memories behind his words. But even without her telepathy, she could feel his truth. 2 days later, the Pure Mind Council made their move. The Unity received a false transmission claiming another Volari ship needed help. When Jonathan ordered the ship to investigate, a sudden explosion rocked the hull. Emergency lights flared across every corridor. The ship trembled as alarms screamed. "Report!" Jonathan shouted. "Unknown drones attacking from the rear section," a crew member called. "They're using stealth technology and definitely Volari design." Elira's heart pounded. "They came for me," she whispered. Jonathan turned to her, his eyes burning with focus. "Get to the safe chamber." "No," she said firmly. "This ship is my duty too." Their eyes met, human courage facing Volari pride. Then Jonathan nodded. "Stay by my side." The Unity maneuvered through the chaos, its defenses lighting up the dark space like fireworks. Drones darted between shots, small but deadly. Jonathan directed the defense teams calmly, his voice steady through every command. "Target pattern B-17, shield the engines. Medical team to deck 3. Elira watched in awe. He didn't panic. Even under fire, his voice carried hope. She felt the emotions of the crew: fear, determination, trust. It was overwhelming but beautiful. Humans did not hide their feelings. They turned them into strength. Suddenly, one of the drones broke through and hit near the communication wing. Sparks flew and Elira was thrown to the ground. Jonathan rushed to her side, pulling her up. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, her hands trembling. "I'm fine." He guided her toward the emergency station. "Stay here. I'll—" Before he could finish, a small explosion ripped through the wall behind him. The blast threw him forward. "Jonathan!" she cried, kneeling beside him. He was conscious but bleeding from his forehead. "I'm okay," he said through shallow breaths. "Go. Make sure the crew's safe." But Elira refused to leave. She pressed her hands against his wound, her voice shaking. "No. You protect everyone and let me protect you for once." He looked at her, surprise in his tired eyes. Then he smiled weakly. "You sound human." She almost laughed through her tears. "Maybe I'm learning." The attack ended after several minutes that felt like hours. The Unity's crew fought bravely and finally, the last drone was destroyed. The silence that followed felt heavy but victorious. Elira helped Jonathan to the medical bay. He refused to rest until every crew member was treated. "Captain, please," she said softly. "You need care too." He sighed, sitting down at last. "Only because you asked, Princess." When the medic finished patching his wound, Elira stayed beside him. Her hands were still shaking slightly. "They wanted to kill you," he said quietly. "They think ending your life will end peace." She looked at him with deep sadness. "If I die, maybe it will stop them from attacking you." He shook his head firmly. "No, if you die, their hate wins. And I don't let hate win." His words touched her more than she could express. She realized that humans were not driven by chaos. They were driven by heart. That night, when Jonathan finally rested, Elira stood by his side, watching him sleep. The machines hummed softly around them. She whispered, "You risked your life for me. I used to think humans were dangerous. But maybe your danger lies in how deeply you care." The next morning, the ship's crew gathered in the main hall. Damage reports were grim, but spirits were high. Jonathan stood before them, bandaged but strong. "We were attacked by fear," he said. "But we answered with courage. That's how peace survives, and not by running, but by standing together." The crew cheered. Even the Volari officers bowed their heads in respect. Elira watched him speak, her heart full of quiet admiration. The man she once dreaded had become the anchor of her world. And though danger still lingered in the stars, she knew one truth: human kindness was stronger than any weapon. The UHS Unity drifted through calm space again, but its scars remained. Panels were bent, hallways damaged, and the faint scent of burnt metal lingered. Yet the crew walked with pride. They had survived. They had defended both humans and Volari. Together, Captain Jonathan Hale returned to duty the very next day. His forehead bore a thin healing mark, a quiet reminder of the battle. The crew admired him not just for his bravery, but for his kindness. He never raised his voice in anger, even when systems failed or stress rose. He led with calm, a calm that inspired trust. Princess Elira stayed close to him now. The fear she once felt had faded into respect, and that respect was slowly becoming something deeper, though she did not yet dare to name it. One morning, Elira entered the command deck with a small data crystal in her hand. "Captain Hale," she said formally, "I have gathered intelligence from the Valari Council. They confirmed the Pure Mind Council is still active. They may strike again." Jonathan looked up from his console. "Then we prepare. But we don't respond with hate. We show them peace isn't weakness." Elira tilted her head slightly. "You speak of peace as if it were a living being." He smiled softly. "In a way it is. Peace needs protection and sometimes love." His words made her heart flutter in a way she could not explain. Love was a human word she had never truly understood. Among her people, affection was quiet and hidden, not spoken aloud. But with Jonathan, every kind act seemed to whisper it. Later that day, the ship's engineers organized a small celebration. They wanted to honor the unity between the two species after surviving the attack. The dining hall glowed with soft lights, blue for Valari, gold for humans. Music played again, gentle and peaceful. Elira stood at the edge of the room, watching the humans laugh and talk. One of them offered her a glass of glowing blue drink. "It's safe, Princess," Jonathan said, approaching her with a smile. "Non-alcoholic, don't worry." She took the glass carefully and tasted it. The flavor was strange, sweet and cold. "Humans make everything emotional," she said softly. He chuckled. "Maybe that's how we survive." For a moment, silence hung between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was soft and comfortable. Then Jonathan extended his hand. "Would you like to join me on the observation deck? It's quieter there." Elira hesitated, then nodded. They walked together through the silent corridor. The stars outside shimmered through the long glass panels. When they reached the deck, Jonathan dimmed the lights. Space stretched before them, endless and calm. "Every time I look at the stars," Jonathan said, "I remember how small we are, and yet somehow we still find ways to make meaning." Elira looked out at the same stars. "Valari are taught not to look too long at the void. It reminds us of fear." He glanced at her gently. "And yet you're standing here looking at it anyway," she smiled faintly. "Because I am learning from a very strange human." Jonathan laughed softly, and the sound warmed her chest. For the next few days, Elira and Jonathan spent more time together, not because of duty, but because they wanted to. He showed her how humans used art to express feelings. She showed him Valari memory weaving, a meditation that shaped light into patterns of thought. Together, they shared silence and conversation, learning each other's ways. The crew noticed the change. Some whispered quietly, smiling at the sight of their captain and the princess walking side by side. During one quiet evening, Elira taught Jonathan how to perform a Valari mind link meditation. It was a ritual used to strengthen trust between two people. "Close your eyes," she said softly. "Focus on calm. I will not enter your mind and only share the energy of thought." He obeyed. A gentle blue light shimmered around them as their minds aligned. Elira felt his thoughts like warm waves, honest, steady, and full of quiet care. There was no fear, no greed, only peace. She opened her eyes slowly, tears shining in them. "You think?" "Beautifully," she whispered. Jonathan opened his eyes too. "And you feel deeply even if you hide it." Elira looked down. "You make it sound like emotion is strength, not weakness." "It is," he said softly. "Without it, we wouldn't care enough to protect what's good." For the first time, Elira reached out and touched his hand. A simple gesture, yet powerful. Her fingers trembled slightly, but he didn't move, respecting her pace. The contact sent a warmth through her unlike anything she had known. She withdrew slowly, her heart racing. "You are changing me, Captain Hale," he smiled. "Maybe we're changing each other." The peace aboard Unity did not last long. 3 days later, the ship's sensors detected something hidden deep within the engine deck. A foreign device attached to the power core. Jonathan and Elira arrived immediately. Engineers stood back, frightened. The small metallic sphere pulsed with strange blue energy. "It's a quantum destabilizer," Elira said, her voice tight. "Valari technology. It could destroy the entire ship." Jonathan frowned. "Can it be disarmed?" "Maybe," she said, stepping closer. But I'll need to use telepathic focus. It's linked to a mental trigger. Only a Valari mind can stop it. That's too dangerous, Jonathan said. If something goes wrong, she interrupted gently. If I don't try, everyone here dies. He looked at her, torn between reason and fear. Then I'm staying with you. No, she said, shaking her head. You can't help me in this. But Jonathan didn't move. If you fall, I'll catch you. That's final. Alira met his eyes and saw something there she could no longer deny. It wasn't just duty. It was care. Real human care. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. The device pulsed brighter, reacting to her thoughts. Sweat formed on her forehead as she fought to unravel the mental lock left by the Pure Mind Council. Jonathan stood behind her, his hand hovering near her shoulder, whispering encouragement. You're doing great. Just breathe. Her focus wavered. Pain flashed through her mind as the device resisted. It's fighting me, she gasped. Stay with me, he said. You're stronger than it. She gritted her teeth, drawing strength from his voice and his faith. Slowly, the device's glow faded, then stopped completely. With a soft hiss, it powered down. The danger was gone. Alira collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Jonathan caught her before she could fall. It's over, he said softly. You did it. She looked up at him weakly, her eyes filled with tears. We did it. Hours later, Alira awoke in the medical bay. The soft hum of machines surrounded her. Jonathan sat beside her, half asleep, still holding her hand. When she stirred, he opened his eyes immediately. Hey, he said gently. Welcome back. How long was I unconscious? 10 hours. You scared everyone. Alira smiled faintly. It seems I have a habit of worrying you. He smiled back. I'd rather worry about you than lose you. Her breath caught for a moment. The warmth in his voice felt like sunlight through glass, gentle and steady. She whispered, Jonathan, I understand now. Peace doesn't come from rules or treaties. It comes from people, from kindness. He squeezed her hand softly. And you've shown everyone what courage looks like. Alira gazed at him, her heart full. The fear that once filled her was gone, replaced by something pure. It wasn't duty anymore. It was love. Quiet, real, and strong. The Unity resumed its journey through the stars. The crew worked harder than ever, their unity deeper than before. And as the ship passed by a shining nebula, Jonathan and Alira stood together at the window. Side by side, she whispered, You once said peace is alive. I think it lives here now. She placed her hand gently over her heart. Jonathan looked at her, smiling. Then maybe we've both found what we were searching for. In that moment, among 1,000 stars, 2 hearts from different worlds beat as one. The UHS Unity moved steadily toward Valari Prime, carrying not only the princess and the captain but the hopes of 2 civilizations. After weeks of tension, the ship was finally ready to return home, its hull repaired, its crew stronger than ever. Princess Alira stood on the observation deck, looking out at the twin suns of her home planet. Their golden and silver light reflected on her skin, illuminating her thoughtful face. She had changed since the first day aboard the Unity. Where there had been fear, there was now calm understanding. Where there had been distance, there was trust, and quietly, affection. Captain Jonathan Hale approached, his footsteps soft against the polished floor. You seem reflective, he said, a gentle smile on his face. Alira turned to him. I am thinking about what we've done, about how much has changed, he nodded. Not just around us. Inside us too, she paused, taking a deep breath. I used to dread humans. I thought you were reckless, dangerous. But I see now, you are strong. Not because of weapons or skill, but because of your heart. Jonathan smiled softly, his brown eyes warm. And I see now that Valari are even stronger than I imagined. Calm, disciplined, wise, yet capable of courage that moves stars. Alira felt a gentle warmth in her chest. You've shown me a world I never knew I could trust. A world I never knew I could love. Jonathan's smile deepened. And you've shown me how quiet strength can guide the bravest hearts. For a moment they stood together in silence, letting the twin suns fill the room with their light. The welcoming ceremony on Valari Prime was a grand affair. Ships from human and Valari fleets floated above the capital city, banners waving in zero-gravity displays. Delegates from both species filled the hall, whispering and nodding while citizens lined the streets to witness history. Elira and Jonathan walked down the ceremonial path together, side by side. No one could deny the change in her demeanor. Her steps were lighter, her gaze calm yet confident. Her people, long cautious and proud, looked at her with curiosity. Many had doubted the peace treaty, but now they saw it in living form. Jonathan kept his hand at his side, giving her space, yet his presence was steady and reassuring. Every so often his eyes met hers, and a silent understanding passed between them. At the ceremony, the Volari Council gathered to hear Elira speak. The princess stepped forward, her voice clear and composed. "Today we celebrate not just a union between two people," she said, her silver eyes scanning the crowd. "We celebrate the trust and hope that can exist between worlds. Humans are not our enemies. They are our partners. They have taught us that courage is not only in power but in kindness, and kindness can change everything." A hush fell over the room. Many delegates looked at one another in surprise. They had long seen humans as impulsive and emotional. Elira's words challenged centuries of belief. Jonathan stood behind her, silent but proud. He had never doubted her, never doubted the message she carried. And now the galaxy could see it too. After her speech, the crowd erupted into applause. Humans and Volari alike cheered, some even shedding tears of joy. Elira turned to Jonathan and he bowed his head slightly, a small but tender gesture of respect and admiration. "You did wonderfully," he whispered, his voice soft enough for only her to hear. "I spoke what I felt," she replied, "and I feel hope for both our peoples." Jonathan smiled. "Hope is stronger than fear, always." Elira looked at him, her heart full. For the first time she realized that what she had feared, marrying a human, had been the best choice she could have made. Not because of duty or obligation, but because of the man before her. Later that evening, in the quiet of her private quarters, Elira found herself thinking about the weeks aboard the Unity. She remembered the drills, the attacks, the nights spent staring at the stars with Jonathan by her side. She remembered how he had encouraged her, never rushed her, and never treated her as less than capable. A soft knock at the door broke her reverie. "May I enter?" Jonathan's voice was gentle. She nodded, and he stepped inside. He did not close the door completely, leaving space between them, but the energy in the room shifted. "You have grown stronger," he said quietly, sitting across from her. "Not just as a leader, but as a person." Elira's gaze softened. "I learned from you. From your calm and your kindness." He leaned forward slightly. "You taught me something too, that even the strongest heart can be gentle, and that even someone trained to fear can learn to trust." Her breath caught. "And what does your heart say now?" Jonathan smiled, slowly reaching out his hand. "It says that sometimes the bravest choice is to care, and the smartest choice is to love. I care for you, Elira." Her silver eyes widened, tears shimmering. I care for you too, Jonathan." For a long moment they simply looked at each other. Two hearts from different worlds united by trust, courage, and kindness. Then in a quiet, gentle gesture their hands met. A simple touch, yet it carried the weight of the galaxy, the struggles of both peoples, and the hope of a shared future. The next day, the Unity prepared to dock at Volari Prime permanently. Ships from both fleets lined the space lanes in salute. Citizens cheered as the princess and the captain disembarked together. Elira's parents, the Volari monarchs, greeted them. They had watched the two grow closer during the voyage. Though they remained reserved, pride shone in their eyes. "You have brought honor to Volari Prime," her mother said softly, "and perhaps a new understanding of humanity." Her father nodded. "Your courage and wisdom will guide our people well, and perhaps in time it will guide the stars themselves." Jonathan bowed respectfully. "I only did what any human would do, care for those who are in need, but I am grateful for the trust your people have given me." Elira squeezed his hand gently. Together they walked forward, no longer princess and captain alone, but a partnership that symbolized hope for two species. In the quiet of the palace gardens later that evening, Jonathan and Elira stood beneath twin trees that mirrored the twin suns above. The stars were beginning to glow as night fell, reflecting their own journey, a journey from fear to trust, from duty to love. "You once said peace is alive," Elira said softly, looking up at him. Do you think it lives here now? Jonathan smiled, taking her hand. It lives wherever people choose kindness over fear, courage over doubt, and love over hate. Alara nodded, her eyes shining. Then we have brought it to life together. He pulled her close gently, their foreheads touching. Together, he said, and in that moment the galaxy seemed to pause. For two hearts had bridged the distance between worlds. The people of Valari Prime would remember this day. Humans and Valari alike would remember that peace was not a treaty, not a law, not a sword. Peace was human kindness, strong, patient, and unwavering. And love, it seemed, was its quietest and most powerful companion. Alara looked at Jonathan, her heart full. She no longer dreaded the human she had been made to marry. Instead, she cherished him, and the life they would build together. Hand in hand, they watched the twin suns set. Beyond the horizon, the stars sparkled, countless possibilities awaiting them. And for the first time, Princess Alara understood fully what humans had always known, that even in a vast, dangerous galaxy, kindness could shine brighter than any weapon, and courage could create peace stronger than any treaty.